In the process, did you have any mystical experiences? What shifted in terms of your perspective about dying?
The first thing that happened was I remember when my dad was diagnosed and I had a sense that my father would die. And I remember saying to myself, how are you going to deal with this? And I said, I want the gifts. They're going to come with this. So the very beginning, I made a choice. I held a perspective, that's what I wanted, and that's what I looked for. So that was the beginning with that. And then when my mother was diagnosed, which was more challenging, I went to the same place and said, okay, I could look at this as tragic or unfair, but I want the gifts. I want to know what that really is like. And I did have some mystical experiences. I remember with my mother, it wasn't so much with my father, but with my mother, I remember when I was with her in the bedroom one night, I heard children singing. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I knew that she was hearing that same thing. So there was that. I heard that several times, that I would hear what I would call the children or angels singing. My mother, one morning, close before she died, she said to me, Susie, that's what she called me, did you see the little girl out in the driveway? And I said, no, Mom, did you know her? And she said, no. And I said, well, what was she doing? And she said, oh, she was just standing there. And she said, I think she's come to get me. And so those were some of the things that happened. Two that were very profound. The night that my mother died, she died at home. And I went through this process of bathing her, which was very extraordinary. And when I finished, and the funeral home came and got my mother, I went upstairs to bed. It was this old farmhouse. And I heard footsteps in the living room where my mother had passed. And I knew that it was my father who had been there and had come to be in the house one more time. And I did my mother's eulogy, and the night before her funeral, I wrote it. And I struggled with that, and I kept saying, please, Mom, help me talk about who you are, the essence of who you are. And when I finished, about 3 in the morning, I felt this kiss on my forehead. And I used to kiss my mother on the forehead every night before she went to bed. And so those were some of the extraordinary things that happened.